Imagine for a second that you're trapped in a place from which you cannot escape. The air is heavy, the darkness is almost total, and the only sound you hear is the deep, hungry, and patient breathing of 7 predators who outmatch you in strength, speed, and ferocity. Your hands are tied, you have no weapons, you have nowhere to run, and at any moment, one of them will decide that the game is over. But here's what no one tells you about this story. The man in that pit didn't die, not because the lions were tame, not because there was an invisible cage, not because someone came to rescue him, but because that man discovered something that most of us take a lifetime to understand, and some never do, that the predator doesn't attack when it doesn't find prey, and prey is not someone weak. Prey is someone who is afraid. Stay until the end of this video because what you're going to understand today isn't just ancient philosophy or textbook psychology. It's a law that operates right now in your life, in your relationships, in your work, in your mind. And once you see it, you won't be able to stop seeing it. There's a 19th century painting that captured this moment with a precision that still makes people stop in front of it in museums. It's called Daniel in the Lion's Den, and it was painted by the British artist Briton Rivière in 1872. But it's not the name of the painting that matters. It's what Rivière decided to paint, and especially what he decided not to paint, because Rivière could have painted the struggle. He could have painted claws, blood, the drama of a man defending himself with the last of his strength. That would have been spectacular, that would have sold. But Rivière chose to paint something much more disturbing and much more true. He painted the stillness. Daniel is facing away from the lions. His hands are clasped in front of him. His posture is completely upright. And the lions, all of them, are there, present, real, dangerous, but none of them attacks. Some watch him with curiosity. Others simply lie down, as if they've lost interest. As if this man doesn't fit into any category they know, as if his calm is a language they cannot process. That's exactly what you need to understand about the lions in your own life. Most of us spend much of our existence in that pit. Maybe your lions don't have physical claws, but they have names you recognize perfectly. They are called debt. They are called the boss who humiliates you. They are called the relationship that consumes you. They are called that inner voice that's been telling you for years that you're not enough, that you're late, that the train has already left without you. Those are your lions. And they've been watching you all this time, waiting for you to make the one mistake that makes them lethal. Do you know what that mistake is? Fear. Let's talk about the great tragedy of the modern human. We've been programmed to react. It's not your fault. It's ancient biology, operating in a world that no longer exists. Your brain was designed so that when something threatening appears on the horizon, your entire system activates in a fraction of a second. Your heart speeds up, your muscles tense, your mind narrows and focuses all its energy on the danger. That worked perfectly when the danger was a real predator on a savanna 50,000 years ago. But today, that same system activates when you see an email from your boss at 10 p.m., when the phone rings and it's an unknown number, when someone contradicts you in a meeting in front of others. Your body doesn't distinguish between a tiger and an email. For your nervous system, the threat is equally real, and the response is equally intense. The problem isn't that you feel fear. The problem is what you do with that fear. Because when you face a difficult situation with desperation, with panic, with that frantic energy of someone who feels the ground moving beneath their feet, you're sending a very clear signal to the world and to the people around you. You're saying, here's prey. Here's someone who can be manipulated, pressured, controlled. Here's someone whose energy can be absorbed. And the lions always respond to that signal. Think of someone you know, or have known, who seems to walk through chaos without it touching them, not because their life is perfect, but because something in the way they are in the world makes problems behave differently around them. Conflicts calm down. Aggressive people lower their tone. Situations that would destroy others seem to resolve in almost inexplicable ways when that person is present. Have you seen it? Have you felt it? It's not luck. It's not charisma. It's not that they have contacts, money, or an easier life than you. It's something much simpler and much harder at the same time. It's that they learned not to be prey. Now I want us to do something together. I want you to go back to that painting by Rivière for a moment, because there's a detail almost no one notices at first, and it completely changes the meaning of everything you're seeing. On the floor of the pit, there are bones. It's not a safe environment. It's not a nice metaphor. There's concrete evidence that others died there before. The lines are not decorative. They are lethal and have a history. And yet Daniel is standing with his back straight, looking up at something the lions can't see or understand. That's what makes this image so disturbing and so powerful at the same time. It's not the blind bravery of someone who doesn't know the danger. It's the conscious calm of someone who knows it perfectly and has made a decision about where they're going to place their attention. Here's where the law that very few understand comes in. It's called many things: the law of non-resistance, stoic detachment, equanimity, but in essence it's this. When you resist something with fear, you give it shape, you give it weight, volume, presence. Every hour you spend thinking about your debt with terror, that debt grows, not in numbers, but in the space it occupies inside you. Every time you obsessively revisit a conversation that went wrong, looking for the exact moment when everything went off track, that moment grows. It becomes bigger than it was, more definitive than it deserves to be. Problems feed off attention tinged with fear. That's their fuel, and you've been giving it to them for free for years. What if you cut it off? Not abruptly, because that doesn't work either. The mind that tells you not to think about lions ends up thinking about lions, but in a different way, more subtle and more powerful, changing the internal state from which you relate to the problem, not from panic, but from resolution, not from the urgency of someone who feels they're drowning, but from the calm of someone who knows they have what they need to stay afloat. Calm has a frequency that chaos can't process. When Daniel turns his back on the lions, he's not ignoring them, he's acknowledging them and simultaneously refusing to give them the only ingredient they need to attack, his fear. He's saying silently and with all his body, I recognize you're there, but you don't have permission to occupy the center of my world. And the lions stop. Not because they're good, not because they've changed, but because the game they know requires two players, and Daniel refused to be the second. There's a practical application of this that I want you to seriously consider. Think of the last time someone tried to provoke you. A comment in a meeting designed to belittle you, a passive-aggressive message, a critique disguised as advice. What did you do? Did you defend yourself immediately? Did you go home thinking of the perfect response you should have given? Did you lose sleep over it? If the answer is yes, what really happened was this. The lion roared and you ran, not physically, emotionally. You gave it exactly what it needed. Your energy, your time, your peace of mind. And that made it bigger. Now imagine the next time you do something completely different. Not an aggressive response, nor a cowardly retreat, but something most people have never practiced enough. Internal stillness. You let the roar happen. You watch it from a place within you that remains absolutely still, not because you haven't heard it, but because you've consciously decided that your state of peace does not depend on what that roar does or doesn't do. In that space of non-reaction, something extraordinary happens. The lion gets confused. The aggressor loses their purpose. The person trying to belittle you is exposed in their own game without an opponent to support them. And you regain something you'd unknowingly given away, your power. Let's now talk about something no one wants to hear, but everyone needs to understand. Calm is not a natural state for most of us. It doesn't come because it's easy. It doesn't arrive with age, and it's not about temperament. Calm is a muscle, and like every muscle, it atrophies if it's not used, and it strengthens if it's trained with consistency and intention. The problem is, we live in a culture that trains exactly the opposite muscle. Every notification is designed to trigger your alert system. Every headline is written to spark a reaction. Every conversation on social media rewards the most intense, immediate, inflamed response. We've been in constant training for reactivity, and then we wonder why we can't stay calm when the lions appear. Training calm requires deliberate practice in the small moments. Don't wait to be in the pit to find out if you have what it takes. The next time traffic frustrates you, when a long line consumes you, when someone interrupts you while you're focused, there's your gym. There's your chance to consciously choose a different response from the one your nervous system wants to give you automatically. Every time you choose calm in a small moment, you're building the ability to choose it in a big one. You're training the Daniel you'll need when the real lions show up, and they will. There's another dimension to this story that I want you to consider. Notice the direction of Daniel's gaze in Rivière's painting. He doesn't look at the lions. He doesn't look at the ground full of bones. He looks up and inward, towards something that isn't in the pit, but that he carries with him. Where are you looking when things go wrong? If your gaze is completely fixed on the problem will grow to fill your entire field of vision. That's how attention works. What you look at expands, not metaphorically, neurologically. The brain allocates more resources, more processing, more energy to whatever receives your sustained attention. If you give that attention to the problem through fear, the problem literally becomes bigger inside of you. But if your gaze is fixed on something else, the possible solution, your deeper purpose, what still remains intact despite the chaos, something changes, not the problem, you. And when you change, the way the problem relates to you also changes. Problems are, almost always, much smaller than fear makes us believe. Fear is a magnifying lens that distorts reality. When you take off that lens, when you're able to see the problem from calm instead of from panic, you realize something you couldn't see before. The lions also have limits. They also fear what they don't know. And your calm is exactly what they don't know. It's your most lethal weapon, because it's the only one they can't counter with force. I want to talk to you about something beyond external problems, because there's one kind of lion that's more dangerous than all the others combined, and it lives inside you. It's the voice that tells you that you can't, that it's too late, that others can, but you can't. That past failure defines possible future. That voice doesn't have physical claws, but it's paralyzed more people than any external circumstance, and it operates under exactly the same principle. It feeds off your reaction. Every time you hear it and panic, every time you defend yourself against it, or try to drown it out, or obsess over it endlessly, that voice grows. Every time you observe it from a distance, without identifying with what it says, without making it a verdict about who you are, that voice shrinks to what it really is, an ancient protection mechanism that no longer serves any useful function. You are not that voice. You are the one who hears it, and that difference changes everything. Daniel in the pit wasn't invulnerable. He wasn't superhuman. He was someone who had learned, or perhaps discovered in that critical moment, that his identity didn't depend on the outcome of that night, that if the lions devoured him, it would say something about the lions, not about him, and that if he survived, it wouldn't be because he defeated them, but because he had stopped being what they hunted. That's transcendence, not the bravery that fights, the calm that simply is. And now we reach the end of this journey. At the dawn of the story, when the king arrives at the entrance of the pit and calls to Daniel, expecting only silence, and instead he hears a voice, alive, whole, calm. We will all leave the pit one way or another. The question isn't whether there will be lions in your path, because there will be. There will be at your work, in your relationships, in your mind, in your history. The question is, who will you be when the dawn comes? Will you be someone who was consumed by anguish, who gave away their energy to fear, who allowed the external roars to silence the internal voice? Or will you be someone who discovered, maybe in the darkest moment, that the fire within you is stronger than any beast that comes from the outside? The next time you feel the world closing in on you, remember the image. Remember the man in the pit. Breathe deeply. Keep your back straight. And remember that lions don't eat people who have forgotten how to be victims. Your peace is not passivity. Your peace is your greatest victory. This video was produced for Hidden Intellects, acknowledging that no technology will ever replace the human genius behind a work like Briton Riviere's. If this sparked something in you, share it with someone who may be in their own pit today. Sometimes the right word is all someone needs to stay standing. Today you learned not to be the prey of your own mind. But what happens when that lion is a toxic person you can't physically escape from in your daily life? In the video that's appearing on the screen, I'll teach you the exact technique of emotional no contact to neutralize them without having to run away. Click there and discover how to apply this rule today.